right, good day, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation, Protect and Grow Your MEP Business with Comprehensive Project Management Tools, sponsored by Trimble. My name is Colleen Beatty, and I'm the Senior Editor here at Electrical Contractor Magazine. On behalf of the magazine and Trimble, I want to thank all of you for attending today's presentation. Now, before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items really quickly. First of all, please note that today's presentation is being recorded and we'll be providing you with a link to the recording after the webinar is over. So if you miss anything or if you have to leave early, you can come back anytime and watch the recording when it works for you. Second, we have a little poll up on the screen for you, just a little fun thing. Let us know what you're doing for 4th of July weekend. You can select multiple options if you have a very busy weekend ahead of you. And of course, we encourage your participation in today's webinar, so please send us your questions. You can submit them at any time during the presentation using the Q&A module on your screen, which I'm highlighting right now. And we'll have time at the end of the webinar to answer those questions. And you can also use the Q&A module to let us know of any technical problems, such as, uh-oh, the audio cut out. But we hope that won't happen. And finally, there's a quick survey that should pop up on your screen at the end of the webinar. And we hope you'll fill that out. But if you'd like to fill it out sooner, just click the icon with the clipboard at the bottom of your screen to open it up. I've highlighted that for you now. So with all that out of the way, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Please give a warm welcome to Rachel Webster, Product Marketing Manager for Trimble, and Nick Weaver, Trimble's Sales Engineer. Welcome, Rachel and Nick.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Colleen. So we'll go ahead and get started with today's content. I'll share a little bit about myself. Oh, actually, we have to go over these responses first, right? These are important. Looks like everyone's going to have some awesome food this weekend, followed by some fireworks, personal favorite. That's great. Busy, busy. Hope everyone has a great holiday weekend. All right, so I'll kick it off and share a little bit about myself. So as Colleen mentioned, the product marketing manager for Trimble MEP, focusing on project management. And I'm joined here today with my colleague, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Hey, everybody, Nick Weaver. As you see there, solution engineer for the project management products within Trimble MEP here. Quick background on me, based in Denver, Colorado. Got into the industry initially working for an MEP contractor here locally. Started off doing pre-con and estimating, and then spent some time doing project management there as well. After that, spent about 5 years on the vendor side of things for commercial HVAC equipment and controls. So as we're going through the presentation, and then as I'm walking through the demo, you'll hear me kind of talk back to both of those experiences in my past of how these different things related to my previous lives as a contractor, previous lives as a vendor. So thank you all for joining, and looking forward to chatting with you today.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. So as Colleen mentioned, our topic today is about protecting and growing your MEP business with comprehensive project management tools. So we're going to be focusing all about project management opportunities in the MEP space, especially focusing on the electrical space today, and how you can apply some best practices related to project management. So our agenda, quick 1, 2, 3 for you. We're going to start on the current state of project management in the MEP trades. We'll share with you some signals that we're seeing from customers, especially as it relates to electrical, and then dive into some solutions and tools that you can use to protect and grow your business related to project management and operations and helping to hedge risk. And then lastly, Nick will take us through an introduction of Project MEP, which is Trimble's new project management solution designed for MEP contractors. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick us off. So as we mentioned, we're just going to start with some signals that we're seeing in the market. And I don't think that anyone here would be surprised to hear that the challenges in construction are great. They're widespread, and they also, unfortunately, span a couple different areas here that we have on your screen. So labor scarcity and strain. Not new news to anyone here, started in COVID, and it still seems to be a major issue for most of our customers. They cannot find the labor that they need to really modernize their business and to keep up with the growth that they are seeing. great news is that everyone is still continuing to see growth despite some, news in the economy where people were saying not really sure what's going on. Seems to be that everyone in construction is pretty optimistic, at least in the medium term, but you need labor to support that. And then next, the manual and disconnected workflows. We're going to be spending a lot of time talking about this today, where information just breaks down, whether it's between the field or the office, or maybe it's between different back office functions like estimating or accounting and design. And we're going to touch on that today because our solution is really talking about how we can connect those workflows across MEP contractors. And then next, material delays and pricing uncertainty. Thankfully, this has cooled off some. We've been seeing this temper a little bit, but it certainly did hit a high point in COVID, and we're starting to see some of those commodities start to temper, but still the material delays persist, and that uncertainty is still definitely left its mark. And then lastly, productivity and coordination of quality jobs. We all know that jobs are just getting more and more complex, and the coordination of that across all the different project stakeholders is only getting more difficult, and the amount of documents that are created in construction is only growing as well. So what we're going to be talking about today is how that paperwork and how not only tracking and doing that coordination, but also keeping all of that paperwork together to protect your business, whether it's related to disputes or otherwise. All right, one quick stat for you. This is from the Future of Construction, a white paper in the industry that said 70% of construction leaders believe that those who do not adopt digital change will go out of business, which is a pretty staggering number to believe that the majority of leaders believe that the majority of firms who are not adopting those technologies will go out of business. And I have to believe that a lot of that is related to risk tracking, risk mitigation, and a lot of that is being done realistically through, technology. And we're going to be touching on some of that a little bit more. So jumping back to some of those manual and disconnected workflows, if you work in operations today, I'm sure this is something, or really anywhere in construction, I'm sure this is something that you have happen to you on a daily basis. Just on your screen now is a couple screenshots of different solutions that Trimble provides, where people are bouncing in and out of these different solutions, whether it's accounting, maybe you know us for an AccuBid estimating solution, or VDC if you work with Siskiyou, or maybe you are familiar with a hardware user. All of these things different people are experts in, and it's all about, we're creating this data, we're doing the jobs that you do on a daily basis, but how do you connect this information? And the biggest part of this is that it impacts your project managers who sit in the middle of all of this. They are the ones who have to digest a lot of the information, whether it's related to that first estimate that's becoming your budget, or it's keeping up with that coordinated model, or it's keeping on top of all of that data that's coming out of hardware. These are just some of the systems that Trimble may offer that your organizations could be using, but it's all about how does this come together where a project manager can use this information, synthesize the data so that they can deliver that project on time, on budget, and reducing risk throughout of it. So what we want to talk about today is how we can connect these workflows to not only reduce your risk, but also grow your business, because you're going to be able to deliver your work with more quality and under budget. So what does this mean for a project manager who is having to work with all these disconnected tools? Well, first off, if we're just talking about documents and drawing issues, if they're maybe, say they don't have the latest drawing being worked off of in the field, which is a worst case scenario, that is going to incur rework, which of course is the burden of the contractor, not something anyone wants to have happen, and easily preventable, but I'm sure it happens every day. Next, unbilled work. Big part of being a project manager is understanding the scope of the job, what was included in that original bid, and enforcing it to make sure that your organization is getting paid for the work that you're doing. And if there's a change in scope, then you get that extra money to compensate you for that work. So this all comes back to document and drawings, having those in one easy place where a project manager doesn't have to guess on what's the most up-to-date drawing or what was in scope or what's out of scope. Next, planning. If they're not able to accurately plan, then there's not a great understanding of the labor that is needed, which might incur unplanned overtime, just increasing your labor costs, which is of course the highest cost that you have as a subcontractor, and the high material costs. If you can't plan for the people and the materials that you need, then you're not able to really accurately run the job and deliver it on time or on budget. Next, poor reporting between the office and the field. Something that is always a huge topic in the industry is about aligning the office and the field, and the project manager sits in between those two teams. Depending on your organization, they may spend more time in the office, more time in the field. Just depends on the contractor. But if there's not a great flow of information between the office and the field, then you start to run into items like delays or overlooked risks. And something that I think that is really overlooked is actually pulling that data back out of the field into the office. A lot of folks like to talk about, that top-down pushing information from the office down to the field, but it's just as important, if not more important, to get that data back out of the field to understand what's going on, what are the issues that are being encountered, what are they hearing and seeing on the job, so that the office can support them in delivering that work quickly and effectively.
Yeah, Rachel, I can chime in here on this one. I think this is an important and interesting slide here. I don't know that any of what you have shown here is new to us in terms of the impact to operation. I don't think these are all brand new issues that we're seeing. But what I think a lot of people would agree on is these are issues that are becoming more and more common and more prevalent on our projects. I was just having a conversation with a contractor last week, and the conversation was going, man, it used to be I had an RFI, maybe 2 on a job or a couple problems, and I could kind of keep all of that straight in my head, and just with my own notes on my desk or whatever my manual processes were, it was fine, because construction used to be frankly simpler than it is today. But with all of those pieces that you led with at the top, whether it is labor shortages or those supply chain issues, and even the added complexity of even a good project today, we're having more and more jobs that we're having these things start to pop up. It's no longer just that problem job that we're dealing with unbilled work or inaccurate planning or struggling with the communication. It's unfortunately starting to become more of a standard on the projects that are happening day to day. So agree with you. It's more important than ever to think about ways to protect your businesses.
Yeah, it's a great call out on RFIs, just growing, the number of them growing, and something that we hear a lot is you've identified an RFI. Now, what happens if that becomes a change order? And it's trying to understand the whole life cycle of that. Somebody identified something in the field, again, pulling that data back out of the field, and then that becoming an RFI, and then eventually a change order, all the way through you getting paid for that change, the most important part, right? So understanding like all of this growing complexity, and a lot of things don't just end with an RFI, they become something else.
Well, and heaven forbid someone is out sick or on a fishing trip or doesn't have access to that information, and someone else is coming in trying to track down and put the pieces together of this spider web of information that someone else created, right? So yeah, being able to standardize on those workflows as well.
Yeah, that's huge. So we're going to jump into a little bit more of what does this mean from a high level impact on your business? So we've talked about like the project manager and what this means their day to day, but what does this mean at a business level? And a lot of that tracks back to disputes. So we're going to talk through some key learnings from a white paper from a construction consultancy firm that focuses on risk management and disputes. They do a paper every year, and this is all the information in the next couple slides is from their 2022 report. So I don't think any of these dispute causes are going to be new to anyone here, but I think it's interesting to always know and confirm, like, yes, this is something that we see in our team too. And I think number one, it kind of goes back to what Nick, you and I were just talking about, which is poorly drafted, incomplete, or unsubstantiated claims. So that scope, what is the scope? Everybody understanding what is that original scope. And that way we're all starting on the same level. Everyone understands. And as you move forward through the project, if it has to change, then it has to change. But you work through that change process. So making sure that your project manager has the ability to understand that and enforce that is huge in protecting yourself from disputes that are only becoming more and more expensive over time. And next flowing into that is errors or omissions in the contract document. Contracts are big. Maybe not everyone wants to spend as much time in them as we need to, but understanding what is in there and enforcing that scope is huge. And then lastly, this is broken down between all of the different parties in construction, whether it's the owner, the contractor, that being the general contractor in this use case, or a subcontractor, which would be you, failing to comply with contractual obligations or owner-directed changes. We hope that this would never happen, but it's number 3, which clearly it's happening a lot, where people are just not understanding that something is changing in the job and it needs to be reflected. So what do all these things have in common? They all have paperwork in common, which is everyone's least favorite topic, but it's a necessary evil to make sure that we're all staying on the right page. So let's take a look at what this actually has as an impact to disputes. So this is a study of the North American disputes from 2021, and they've been doing it for about 8 years now. So you can see here that the dispute value really shot up in the year of 2020. Crazy. Really, really almost doubled. Thankfully, it's coming down. The numbers showed for 2021 that it came down to, and I'm going to point this out, this is in millions of dollars. So the average North American dispute value is still over $30 million, which is huge. And realizing that not every contractor here is working on a job this big where you would have a dispute this high, I think you can all understand that, like, relatively speaking, applying it to your business, there's still a huge risk, financial risk. $30 million for a lot of electrical contractors is really no joke. Then we're going to look to the right side of your screen for the average dispute length. Thankfully, these have been hovering around 4 months. It's just under 17 weeks now. But when you think about how long that would take, if the average amount is 30 million and the average length is 4 months, that is a lot of time for someone on your team to be haggling back and forth with a stakeholder to make sure that your side of the story is being told and you're actually getting what you deserve out of whatever that dispute is. So this all goes back to where are those project records. If you've got someone working on a dispute resolution for 4 months, keeping track of where those project records, what happened on the job, whether it was a year ago, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, maybe it was even longer ago. Hopefully no one here is working off of project records that look like the picture on your screen, which is just these big piles of paper. We've heard that this is not necessarily too far in the past for some of our customers. Still got to keep that paper for a really long time, but likely it's probably something that's on some of the bullets on your screen. So maybe your project records are in a shared server, or you're using some other kind of online storage tool, cloud storage. Maybe it's just files on someone's computer, someone's cell phone. Chances are, if you're a project manager running in and out of the office, you've got a lot of stuff on that cell phone. Also on your emails, same place. Or maybe these are two that are not so great, and a pile of papers on your desk that eventually turns into maybe what you see on your screen, or lastly, a general contractor's project management system. Which is...
Yeah, Rach, I think that last one's an interesting one, right? I think we would probably expect to see all of the first couple, right? I mean, those would what we would expect to be kind of the standard ways to keep information stored. But we hear from customers all the time when we're talking about why do I, as an MEP contractor, need a project management solution? I'm using the GCs, right? They're passing down to me. They have their own project management system. They're managing their documents and their drawings. I'm just using theirs. And what a lot of people don't recognize at first is there's a lot of risk potential with using the GC's information, because you might be interacting with that information quite a bit, and they might make you interact with that information quite a bit in their system, but that's still their information at the end of the day, right? So if there is those disputes, they have control over the access you have to that information. And then at the very least, you're limited in how you can collaborate with your own teams to share that information and work together on that. So a lot of what we're talking about today is going to be, why is it important to have your own methods and your own processes to manage that information separate from what the GC might be doing or using?
Yeah, it's all about making sure that you have your organization's perspective on what happened on the project documented in a timely and accurate manner. And that's really hard to do if you're using someone else's system. It's just not set up to really work in your best favor. So let's talk through that a little bit more. You know, what are some of the risks when a project goes sour, which unfortunately can happen? I'm sure a lot of folks on this call could tell some mean stories about what can happen when something goes sideways. You know, it's all about minimizing and managing risk. And, you know, number one, you want to make sure that you're gathering your proof points for what you believed happened from your perspective from all over the place. And there's going to be data in a bunch of different systems, like we talked about off the top, maybe. You might have, you know, records from a foreman and their daily report. You might have information coming from a project manager or other different teams that are interacting with the field. Your office might have a different story. Maybe some say there's like an email that's tagged back on a change on a model from your VDC team. Is all of that coming back to one project record to where you can easily go through it and say, these are the timestamps of these changes. This is why what happened. Partial and incomplete records. If you don't have your records, or say you lost access to your records because they were in a GC's project management system, it really leaves you in a place where you don't have the ability to defend your team, and, you know, could open you up to some significant financial risk, which is not something anybody wants to have happened. And you don't want your records to be owned by somebody you could possibly be in dispute against. We understand that, like, plenty of contractors, especially MEP contractors, have great relationships with different construction stakeholders, whether it's your GC or your owner, depending on how you know, if you do service business or not. But you still want to always know that at the end of the day, they're your records and you have those, and you're never going to be in a situation where you lose access to them. So the bottom line is, if you're not able to adequately defend your teams in the business, you need to be able to do that and protect yourself from that in the future. So that's a little bit of a darker side of construction. We don't want to focus on that longer than we have to. We're going to talk a little bit more about the solutions and tools to protect and grow your business. So we've been talking about, you know, project management systems, having that system of record. So what can it look like beyond just protecting yourself from a dispute risk? How can it also help you grow your business and deliver those projects on time, on budget, and grow your business so you can have more projects and more bandwidth in the future? So managing projects from your own system of record. It's not just protecting yourself against the risk. It's about all these other benefits as well. So you're centralizing and standardizing your document storage and maintenance. Going back to that big pile of papers, nobody wants to have that in the future. It's all about making sure that your files are in one place. So whether you need to go back to them in the future, or just so that when you're in the middle of that project, things are moving fast, you know where to find things, your project managers know where to find things, which is also leads up to the one source of truth. What is that one source of truth? Making sure that you have the latest drawings, making sure your team, if you work in BIM, has access to the latest model accessibly from the field or the office, not just locked on a designer's computer, but making sure that everyone can benefit from having that information and it's in one place. Making sure your visibility to information throughout a project. This isn't just your documents and drawings, but this is like those RFIs we were touching on, so that everyone can understand where is the status of this RFI? Does it need to become a change order? Are we approved for this change order, so that no teams are working and delivering on work that isn't approved yet? Nobody wants to fulfill a change order before they're actually got the green light to get paid for it. So it's not just all those documents, but all of the detail and what comes out of those that you want to make sure is visible across everyone in the project, whether it's from the field or the office. And then lastly, I've been touching on this a lot, own your own records to defend your business if that time ever comes. So we touched on this a little bit in the beginning about how all these different teams can contribute to, your project records. Right now, Trimble is known for, especially in the electrical space, for estimating. Probably have some AccuBid users on the call right now. We also have a significant VDC, virtual and design construction business. So if you work with Siskiyou, and then our viewpoint accounting systems as well. So now what Trimble is doing is starting to tie all these things that our customers know and love us for with operations and project management, and making sure that not only these teams can work together from the same platform to get all the benefits you have on your screen. So it's streamlining your documents, increase the efficiency from the office to the field and vice versa. Understanding project health at a glance, whether that's just you have an executive who wants to know this is a big project, how are we doing? They can get that high level input on where are we, how's our budget doing, down to the level of how many change orders do we have outstanding. You can get all of that project health at a glance. And then visibility to actionable financial insights. If something needs to change on a project, you would know sooner rather than later. And then defending claims or disputes if it ever comes to that. So what do you need to look for in a solution? As an electrical contractor, a lot of folks are trying to understand, yes, I understand the need for project management, but what should I really be looking for, and how does that differ from a general contractor? So we've got about 5 here that we've seen our customers ask us about that seem like some best practices to what to look for if this is something you want to prioritize in your business today. So number 1, adaptable to your processes. You as an electrical contractor are going to have different processes than a general contractor or other construction stakeholders. You're performing the work, your teams have different needs. So you want to make sure that whatever you are looking at for a project management solution adapts to how your teams work today. You want it to be easy to adopt so that maybe you've got some folks who really like to do things their way. A project management solution should reflect the way that your teams work, not vice versa. Next, you want to simplify your tech stack. Nobody wants just another tool that sits on a shelf and doesn't really impact their business. You want to make sure that whatever you are buying for a project management solution hopefully does a couple things that you need. Maybe killing a couple birds with one stone, so that you're not introducing just one tool that just introduces more complexity that nobody really understands. Next, we're going to jump to connecting your team. So it's not just about connecting your project management team to maybe the field, but it's also connecting all of those back office teams as well, making sure that all of the roles, the estimator, the designer, detailer, your executive team possibly, or even your accountants can understand where a project is and get the information they need from that system. Depending on, everybody has different information that they need, but you don't want it to ever, be locked out. You want to think about it from a holistic point of view. And then lastly, most importantly, in our opinion, is providing that MEP-specific functionality. A lot of folks will say, hey, this is a solution that was designed for general contractors, but MEPs can benefit from it too. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but you want to make sure that there's functionality that actually impacts the workflows that your teams need. So maybe your organization is prioritizing fabrication, maybe in the next 5 years. You want to have a project management solution that reflects those priorities, and using something that is designed originally for a general contractor won't have that included. If you're using fabrication as an example, if you're using estimating as an example, you want to have a solution that supports the specific workflows that your team needs. So we're going to dive into, Trimble's perspective on this with project management designed for MEP contractors. I'm going to give a really high-level overview of our opinion on this, and then we're going to hand it over to Nick. So Trimble's vision for project management is really connecting from design to done. It's a catchy way of saying connecting all the teams in your organization to making sure that everyone has the information they need to deliver their best work, their life's work, whether you're a designer, detailer, estimating, if you're working in fabrication, project management, our topic today, or you maybe interact with Trimble hardware or financial management tools like a Viewpoint ERP. What we're talking about today is a solution that connects across each of these teams so that there is one project record and that everyone can collaborate from the same information. We're going to be focusing mostly today on Project Site, which is Trimble's leading project management solution. And there's three main areas that kind of ladder up to our main topic today on disputes. And it's starting with that complete project visibility, which ties back to complete project records. Can't have visibility without having those records in there first. So it's visibility throughout the project while you're doing the work, and then visibility afterwards, should you ever need it for a dispute or other risk management purposes. Simplifying that document and project paper trail. Papers are everywhere, records are everywhere. Simplifying that is a huge benefit throughout the project, not making it someone else's full-time job, but making it easier to do. And then lastly, connecting the drawing management. This is a huge benefit to Project Site specifically, is connecting your drawings to different project records, whether it's an RFI, a change order, or some other ones as well. So where does this fit? Where does this all come together? Trimble has a new solution called Project MEP, which includes Project Site, which Nick will be taking us through today briefly. But talking back to some of that MEP-specific functionality, Project MEP is a suite of solutions that supports MEP contractors on the operations side of your business. So it's not just about the project management that you've probably heard a lot about, which touches on your drawings, your documents, your budgets, your change orders, your submittals, but also other MEP functionality. So it supports prefabrication workflows, if that is a priority in your business. It also includes a change order solution. Say your project managers shoot from the hip a little bit on the change orders, and you want to make sure that everyone has an accurate estimate on that. It includes an easy to use estimating solution as well. And then on top of that, a submittal manager solution, which ties back to the Trimble content that maybe you use in estimating workflows, so that you can streamline your submittal management and creation process, which, let's be real, it's really time consuming and no one's favorite part of construction. So with Project MEP, it's all about time saving across your business, all across operations, but also prefabrication and protecting yourself from maybe some change orders that are a little bit shot from the hip. You want to make sure that your team has an accurate estimating tool in your project management solution. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nick, who's going to give us a preview of what this looks like.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Let me go ahead and get my screen shared here and we can get into the demo portion. All right, great. So it looks like my screen should be coming through there if everything is working correctly. So as Rachel mentioned, we've talked about Project MEP, the project management solution for MEP contractors that we have here at Trimble. And we're going to be talking primarily about Project Site, which is a big piece of that. What you're looking at on your screen here, this is Project Site. So Project Site is a web-based project management tool. That being said, it's also available via app for iOS and Android. So if you're out on the job site with a phone or a tablet in your hand, you're going to be able to use it on the app. And that app is usable both online or offline. So don't necessarily need to have a connection to a strong cell signal or be connected to Wi-Fi to be able to use that app functionality. So before we start to get into any of the specifics of what we're going to be using Project Site for, you're looking at a lot on your screen right now. This is the main project dashboard. I'm going to give you kind of an overview of what we're looking at here, and then we can start to get into some specifics. So the screen we have here is split into three main sections. The first is going to be off to the left, and this is going to be the navigation for all the different record types within Project Site. So up at the top here, we have our drawings and specifications. That's where you're going to upload and manage all of your drawings and specs. Budget and cost management, that's going to be anything that has to do with dollars and cents, including your change order process is going to be in here. Document control, we're definitely going to spend some time here today. That's where you're going to create, manage, interact with your RFIs, submittals, issues, action items, meeting minutes, all of those documents you're going to live in here. Field management, that's going to be your daily reports, your checklists, and then we also have things like punch items or safety notices in this section. We have our photo management module. Then we have File Library Trimble Connect. That's going to be the file storage backbone of the system. So that's going to do a lot for us. When Rachel's talking about connecting all of these different solutions, Trimble Connect is going to be a pretty important part of how these different pieces tie together. It's also, like I said, your file storage system. So think something like a SharePoint or a OneDrive, but on steroids with some capabilities for viewing your 3D models, collaborating with your teams, interacting with your fabrication. We'll spend a little bit of time there as well. Finally, below that, we have our Trimble MEP tab. So this is really where we see the difference in how this Project MEP bundle is specific for the MEP contractor. It's allowing your project management team to interact with your fabrication using Connect to Fab built into Trimble Connect. Estimation MEP, that change order estimating tool. Submittal manager for building out those submittal packages, and then supplier exchange for procurement. So really putting that MEP flavor and those specific kind of MEP needs within the project management tool here. On the main part of the screen here, this is our main dashboard. So anything you want to see, big picture, high level, when you log into a project, you can configure on your dashboard here. These are all live links, so I could click directly into any one of these if I wanted to. And I can also configure this dashboard however I want. So up in the top right, I've highlighted with this rectangle the dashboard widget control. So if I click into that, that's going to allow me to customize this dashboard with whatever I want to see. So I could move any of these around. Maybe if I don't care so much about applications for payment, but I want to have visibility to my daily reports, I'm going to be able to configure and see that dashboard to prioritize what I need to see when I get into a job. And each of those changes are going to be user by user. So each person getting in the system can configure their own dashboard to prioritize what they need to see. And it's going to follow me across all my projects. So I don't have to rebuild this dashboard for each project that I'm in, and I'm going to make these changes one time, and it's going to follow me across all my jobs. Finally, off to the right here, we have our assignments. So I like to think of this as kind of a to-do list. Anything that gets assigned to you is going to show up on this right side. And that's going to be across all of these different sections, whether it's something with budget and cost management, something in document control, field management, drawings, any of those things where you get items assigned to you, you're going to have visibility to on that right side of the screen. And then I can filter those based on due date, based on record type. I could see what's assigned to other folks if I wanted to do that as well. So for the sake of the conversation today, obviously we don't have time to get into everything, but when we're talking about how we can protect our information and grow our businesses, I want to start by talking about document control here. So a lot of different places we can go within document control. I'm going to look at RFIs as an example here to get us started. So once we click into RFIs, it's going to take us to this log view. I'm going to be able to see and keep track of all of the different RFIs I have on a specific project. If I click into any one of these RFIs, I can look at it in a bit more detail here. So once I get into this screen, I'm going to have obviously my title up at the top. I'm going to have my initial question here. And then it's going to take me to this comments screen where any of the discussion back and forth that I might have related to this RFI will follow through in this comments log. So something you'll notice here, it's not just words that are part of this conversation back and forth or communication via text. I have all kinds of different things linked into this RFI. I have, looks like a potential change order. I have an issue linked in here. I even have a model view tied in here. And the reason I can do that is I have this paperclip icon that I'm highlighting up at the top right. And that allows me to link all of my information together here. So we talked a little bit at the beginning during the presentation that it's not just having a single RFI that's in a bubble or a single change order or a single issue. We have this spider web of all of this different information, and all of it is typically related in some way, right? So you have all of these different problems or these change orders or these issues or these action items that are oftentimes connected in some different way. So with this paperclip icon, what I can do is really tie all of those pieces together and attach anything I need to these record types, in this case, an RFI. So of course I can upload a file, whether that's just a picture, PDF, video, anything standard like that. I can link these back to my drawings or my specifications, and then I can link them to any of the different records that I have in the system. So if I go under this records tab here, looks like in this case, this RFI started out as an issue, and now I have a couple potential change orders that are related to this. So back in the previous world, maybe I'm looking at an RFI. I know there's a change order related to that, but man, I can't remember if that's change order 004 or 006. Kind of having to get out of my one folder, go into the other folder. I'm trying to dig all of this together to connect all of these dots. In this case, because everything is stored under one roof, that roof being project site here, I can tie all those pieces together. Now, if I want to check on that potential change order, or if I have a question or I want to refresh my memory on something, I can just click into that. It's going to take me to a different screen. I can look, I can adjust any of my dollars here. I can maybe add a comment, adjust the status, interact with it however I need to, and get right back into my RFI. Now that's for the sake of linking records, but we can even go further than that. If we have 3D models that we're using on the jobs, we have our VDC teams that are doing all of that virtual design construction. I have the ability using Trimble Connect as that file storage backbone with that model viewing capability to link my models into any of these record types, whether it's an RFI, change order, any of those items. Now, as far as how we can share information within the system, we have a couple of options of how we can do that. The first is going to be this assign to function. So off to the right here, middle of your screen that I'm highlighting, we have the ability to assign any of these records to people, whether that's someone internal to my company or someone external to the company. In this case, maybe on this RFI, I want to assign it out to my general contractor to have them come in and give me a response to that. When I assign that to the GC, they're going to get an email that looks something like this. It's going to say, RFI has been assigned to you. There's going to be this link that will allow them to click into this comment section to put their information or their answer in here. They're going to get some high-level information, and those attached links will come through here. Now, something that we hear all the time, if we're expecting a GC to click this link and come into our system to put their information in our system, that's probably a tall task. We've talked about it a little bit. Most GCs are concerned about managing their information. They're not all that concerned about how we're managing ours as an MEP contractor, right? So more likely than not, they're just going to shoot us an email and expect us to organize that and keep all of our ducks in a row. Nice part here is we have this line up at the top. It says respond above this line to add a comment to the record. So what that does, any email that's responded to this assignment email that GC receives, any of that email body they send, any attachments, pictures, PDFs, anything like that is going to automatically populate into my comments log here. I don't have to remember to put that information in. It's going to go in there for me automatically. Now, if we go back to the top of this RFI sections here, we have the ability to track even more information. I have this impact tab. I can keep track of any of my cost impacts, schedule impacts, drawing impacts that might be a result of this RFI. Any additional info, I can configure or customize these to track any added information that I want to keep tabs on. And then we have this history tab as well. So we've talked about how important it is to manage all of your information in a single spot, but this is going to allow us to keep track of how each record has been interacted with throughout the life cycle of the project. So I have full records with date and timestamps of when things were created, when things were edited, when documents were attached, when things were sent, when statuses were changed. All of that is going to be tracked in here in this history log. So if we ever do end up in a situation where we're going through and we have to defend ourselves with information, we're going to have all of that logged here in that history tab. So that's all good from kind of a individual RFI by RFI level, but as we know and as we talked about, there's not just one RFI in a project. We probably have several of these records that we're trying to juggle. So at this screen with the log view, I have some options of how I can do that. Have these statuses off to the side here. This is something that's going to be totally configurable by you. You'll get something out of the box, but you will always have the ability to add, remove, change, rename any of those statuses to meet whatever workflows you have for your company. Once I do that, I can simplify these views by filtering on those. If I wanted to just see my open RFIs, I can do that. More specifically, if I wanted to see my open RFIs that are assigned to me, I could filter by my own name there. I could create these custom views. See, I already created one that says Nick's RFIs. That saves me a couple clicks in terms of getting to that information. But more importantly than that, it gives me this settings icon. And when I click into there, it's going to give me some powerful tools to be able to keep tabs and keep myself on track of what I have outstanding on a job. So once I get into this screen, I can check this box here, and that's going to allow me to include this as a widget on my dashboard. So now every time I get into a job, front and center, I'm going to have a widget there that says, Nick, here are the outstanding RFIs that are assigned to you. I can run a report for that, and I can schedule that report as well. So I could say every Monday at 7 a.m., I want to get an email that's going to automate a report to me that are all of the open RFIs that are assigned to me. That way, every time I get into the job, I have a widget there reminding me, and once a week in the morning, I'm getting that email to keep on track. Now, I'm using RFIs as an example here, but by no means are we limited to this functionality with just RFIs. That functionality is going to be found many places throughout project site. If I wanted to run those reports for change orders that we haven't billed for yet, or submittals that I haven't received, I'm going to be able to do these same widgets on my dashboard and have those automated reports for those different systems in project site as well. So I'm going to back out here and reset a little bit. We've talked about documents. A lot of that functionality is going to be similar for all of these different places within documents. But I want to talk about drawings as well. When we're talking about the importance of being able to collaborate with our teams and stay up to date, drawings is going to be a pretty critical place for doing that. Once we get into our drawing section, first of all, you're going to see everything is pretty cleanly organized for me here. Everything has titles and descriptions. Our system has what's called OCR technology. That stands for optical character recognition. What that means is when I upload my plans, I tell the system where to look once, and it goes through and reads all of these titles, descriptions, and is going to break everything out by discipline for me. So one, that keeps me organized when I get into my drawings, but two, it's always going to make it so I have my most current drawing set when I log into my project here. So what I mean by that is as the project goes on and we have different revisions and addendums that are coming out, each time I upload those into the system is going to read those documents and it's going to compare it to what it's already seen and automatically slip sheet those to give me a combined most current drawing set here. So now anytime I get into my drawings, I'm going to be confident that the drawings that I'm looking at are the most current, most up-to-date drawing set and really eliminate any risk of referencing or building off of a non-current drawing there. So once I get into a drawing, of course, as you expect, we have our markup functionality off to the side here to create our markups on the documents. One thing that might be different, though, is any of these markups that I create, I have the option to make them either public or private. So if I have that as public off, that's just going to be a note for me. I'm going to be the only one that can see that when I get into the system. On the other hand, I can toggle that as public on. Now, any of my teams that are getting into the system can collaborate with these markups that they're putting onto the drawings to be able to share that information, whether it's from the field or the office. So now all of my teams can be confident that one, they're looking at the most current drawing, but two, I'm able to see what all of my different team members are putting for their text, cloud, drawing markups on each of these plans. Like we saw in RFIs, I can link anything I want to these drawings, and that's going to give me the ability to link submittals onto these drawings. I can link RFIs, checklists, punch items, issues, all of these different things I can link directly to my drawings. If I'm in my plans here and I needed to check on a submittal, I can quickly open that up into a different tab, navigate to that, open my document, pull out any of that submittal information that I might need, maybe annotate my submittal, put in some notes, markups on this document, and then with a click, just get right back into my drawings. Now with Trimble Connect as that backbone, we also have that model viewing capability. So I can link my models directly onto my plans here. If I wanted to navigate into Connect, I can interact with this model. So we've talked about how important it is to be able to manage your documents, but as technology and construction is becoming more and more prevalent, the ability to interact with models is becoming more and more important. So I don't have any modeling software on my computer. Your teams wouldn't need to have any modeling software in their computer. I don't have Revit, I don't have CAD. And using the model viewer within Trimble Connect, I can still get into this model. I can still interact with it in some pretty powerful ways. So I can go in, I can select different components. I can assign different statuses to components. Throughout the project, I can go through and assign things as complete, started, paused to keep track of where we're at during installing the job on the model here. And then I can even tie that back into my fabrication. So I could pull back into my spools that I'm created. I could even create new spools here, but I could go in any of these different spools that we have. I can grab into those. I can isolate those. I can pull off those dimensions, really allowing me to collaborate from the office back to my fab shop into the field on that model. So taking that 3D model and allowing even higher levels of collaboration between all the teams. Obviously, this is a quick demonstration. There's certainly a ton more we can talk about, both in Trimble Connect and in Project Site here. For the sake of time, I'm going to pass it back over to Rachel. But if there's any questions, we certainly have time for Q&A here. Please send some questions into the chat. And absolutely, if you're interested in getting a one-on-one demonstration to spend some more time digging into the weeds here, where we can talk about how Project MEP, Project Site, Trimble Connect, and Connect to Fab, all of those different tools can work for your business, please reach out to us. We'd love to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. So we did have a couple questions come in while you were working through that. So I'll just kick us off with some of those. Feel free to drop some more in the Q&A box. We do have some time left over here for any questions or anything that you want to bring up for our discussion. So off the top, can I control or limit who can see what in the system?
Yeah, good question, Rachel. I'm glad you brought that up. So you absolutely can. So you will have full control over the security settings within Project Site. So you get default settings out of the box that kind of have these assumed roles for who can kind of see what, create what, edit what. But part of that configurability piece, you have full control to customize those access, add as many different security roles, and get as specific with that as you want to. So an example I always use for that is if you want to get as specific to Superintendent A can only view RFIs, but Superintendent B can both view and create RFIs, you can get as specific to that as you need to. And that's both for internal or external users. So if you want to control what general contractor can see in your system, what a vendor, what a subcontractor can see in your system, you absolutely have that control to adjust what any user can do and see in the system.
Yeah, it's a really good call out, especially if you say you have some subcontractors performing different parts of it. You can invite them to this, but then control what they can and can't do so that you can benefit from somebody collaborating into your project management system, as you may have to for a general contractor. So another question related to drawings. Are there limits to the amount of drawings that you can upload?
Yeah, another good one. No, there's not. So all of this is cloud-based. I think, Rachel, you might have mentioned that at the top. Part of the benefit there is it's all unlimited. So we're not going to put a cap on the number of jobs that you can have in here or how many projects you can use this for. And there's no limit on document storage in the system. So all of those different drawing sets, all of those different addendums, load them on in there. You got unlimited storage to put all of that in.
Yeah, I'll expand on that a little bit too. The same applies for Connect as well. Say you're working for some really large and complex models. With Trimble Connect, there is no file limitation with, you know, the licensing that comes with Project MEP. So if you have to upload a lot of file revisions for a complex project, that's something that is will never be a limitation for you. And lastly, looks like a couple more questions here. Can I price change orders with this? We touched on this a little bit. Nick, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I can take that. So that gets back into that Project MEP bundle. So one of the pieces that you're getting with that bundle is Estimation MEP, which is a really great tool for that change order pricing. So not necessarily meant to replace your AccuBid. I know some folks are using AccuBid, even that change management process in AccuBid. This is something that can work with that, really as a tool for project manager, even a field personnel, to be able to pull down pricing, maybe even upload a model and connect the pricing back from that. So absolutely, as part of this bundle, Estimation MEP is a powerful resource for change order pricing.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. All right, it looks like those are all the questions that we have so far. last call for any questions. Otherwise, I can wrap us up.
We often do get questions also about whether this webinar is being recorded. So for those of you who might have come in a little bit late or had to leave early, the webinar is being recorded and the link will be sent out to you later today. So you can watch that at your leisure. You can send it on to your colleagues who you think might also benefit from this webinar.
Awesome.
And I will also note that if you don't have a chance to ask your question or you think of something later, you can email both of our presenters. Their emails are in the bios module up on your top right of your screen. You highlight that for everybody. Here we go. So you can email either or both of them, or you can also fill out the survey asking to talk to somebody from Trimble.
Great. Thank you so much, Colleen. So before we close this out, I'll just share one quote from an electrical contractor. Maybe if you are familiar with the greater New York City market, this might be a familiar name to you. So Unity Electric was an early adopter of the Project MEP bundle solution. Project Site itself has been around for some time, but the Project MEP-specific offering has been around for about 18 months now. And Unity Electric were some of the first to try it out and have been on the system for over a year now. And this is a quote from their Assistant Vice President of Project Controls. So Unity Electric is based out of the greater New York City area. And he shared that to stay at the forefront of their industry, their teams have to be connected in order to deliver more value to their customers. Now that their teams are using Project MEP, they're able to reduce friction at key points of the project, like bid turnover, which is something they particularly were looking to identify and make a little bit easier. So that's just one quote from a customer in your area of expertise. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you all for joining today. Thank you, Nick, for sharing your presentation and your expertise. And as Colleen mentioned, our emails are on your screen now. But if you have any other questions or feedback, feel free to reach out to us at mvpwebinars@trimble.com. That email address also comes to me. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Nick and Rachel. So on behalf of Electrical Contractor Magazine and Trimble, I want to thank everyone for attending and for your fabulous questions. And please don't forget to fill out the survey. It's going to pop up on your screen when the webinar ends. And be on the lookout, like I said, for that recording. And please feel free to forward it to whoever you think should watch it. So I hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and we hope to see you at a future webinar.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thanks, everybody.